Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Dark Matter Episode 5, Wordless. We're going to break this review into three parts. We'll start with everything going on with our Jason and Amanda first. Then we'll go over to the creator, Jason. And then we're going to go where they all merge at the end of this episode. What I liked about this episode is it really enhanced the relationship between our Jason and Amanda, and it was fun seeing them work together trying to figure this all out like we the audience are trying to figure out. And this episode to me felt the most like the great show that is on Netflix, Dark, because it had that sci-fi element to it, but it was really held down by great emotional moments. Now we see that Amanda and Jason are starting to try on this door, how they're going to open it, and they know now that what they're thinking is affecting it, but they're going to learn as this episode goes on. It's not as straightforward as that, and it has a lot to do with the subconscious. That is why he's thinking happy thoughts. He thinks it's going to bring a world he wants to see, but then literally they are drowning seconds later, and then he tells her that he was feeling overwhelmed, so that makes complete sense. But as I had made a joke about how Amanda was being really stupid the last episode, this episode it completely changes where she is the MVP of this episode. It's a great episode, and she's starting to realize too that they have to take that time to regulate their emotions and how that is just as important as timing these drug doses. Now we'll learn a little bit more about Amanda and Jason's backstories. Amanda's mom has undiagnosed bipolar disorder, and Jason's mom had cancer in both worlds. It's also interesting that Jason finally asked Amanda about who went in the box before the other Jason, and obviously already knew about Blair, and then Jason goes in. But then we actually learn for the first time the names of those two volunteers that went after the other Jason, Salim and Alex. Now, this is going to be important because they are after that Jason. We are definitely going to see those characters at some point because they're people that he will not recognize, which is going to be a big advantage to stopping him. I like Jason also talks about all these travelers. He's like, well, maybe they found their dream world. It's just great foreshadowing and ironic because we'll end up seeing Blair's world she ended up in later on. So they actually fall asleep, the drugs wear off, and they wake up in this box too. There's basically one door here they can go in, and they're like, let's do it. But it's eerie. It doesn't matter that they even keep going in this world because they need to eat, so they're going to do it. Now, they go into the room where Jason was being held in the other dimension, and they find a skeleton in the covers. And what's really creepy is you actually hear one of these killer bees, we'll call them, behind one of the doors in that same room. Very, very chilling. I loved how haunting this was. It almost felt like you were watching a Resident Evil game being played. And the tension was absolutely excellent in this scene. Them going through this world, it's haunting. You're hearing these buzzing sounds, and you don't know who's even there. And then you see it ends up being Blair. I love the humor here, though, where she's crying and she's like, you came looking for me. And that's where Jason's like, it's a little more complicated than that, because they really weren't. There's also really important lines here, like Jason explains to Blair that we met from his world earlier in the show that I theorized was actually this Blair, which now we know isn't, but that Blair from his world is a bioethics lawyer, which is also important because that Blair is going to be important in maybe taking down Jason with the law and what he's been doing with this box. Now, this Blair we're seeing is not to be trusted. Anytime you meet a character like this in a mystery show, they're usually lying through their teeth. This Blair says she's been living here for 3 months. I think that is BS, though. I think that this Blair has been there longer than that. I think that this Blair is actually the Blair we saw in the videotape she showed them that let in all the bees, and she's just not admitting that she's the one who did that, brought in from another world that killed all these people. She's too wild right now to not have something else that she's hiding and what is going on. I mean, there's literally a skeleton in that room near her that has been taken care of. She's got the walls strapped in from these bees. She doesn't want to be touched by Amanda when she's leaving, so I do think that Blair we saw in the video bringing in the bees is that same Blair. I don't think that's a different Blair, and I don't think it was a coincidence they were wearing the exact same outfit. I think this Blair is just an example of having been the first one going through the box, and everything that could go wrong went wrong with her. I also really like the writing here where Blair is talking to Amanda and she's like, you're not homeless, you're worldless, which is like a crazy concept. And she's like, the longer in the box, the more you start to crack. And she says, you have to figure out what kind of world you want to end up in and do what's best for you, not him, talking about Jason. That's an important line. They don't just throw that in for no reason. There's going to be some conflict going on eventually between this Amanda and Jason, because we know in different worlds they've had feelings for each other. So I feel like that's going to complicate things too when if he eventually finds his Daniela. Now, Blair doesn't want to go with them. She just needs time before she goes in this box because, again, there's just some stuff this woman has seen that we don't know about. And shout out to Amanda Brugel from The Great Handmaid's Tale. She is doing great in this show. But she'll give them her notebook on her travels. So those notes are going to help. Maybe that's a little too easy for my taste to just have that kind of be the lifeline of the show when they need to explain something, but so be it. But Blair explains when you're choosing these worlds, there's so much more into it than just thinking like happy thoughts. Like everything intrudes, fear, stray thoughts, and then the big thing, subconscious desire. And I love the line she says, for all my training, I can never control it. And you see Amanda in this episode clearly has guilt about that for Blair. And I love the music that plays here and eeriness. You just feel seeing Amanda as they're closing the box and saying goodbye. Again, like I said, it feels like Dark on Netflix. And then Amanda in the box will cry to Jason just about how could her Jason not help these people, and he could have fixed all this. He knows how to get back between places, and he didn't help anyone. And she's just trying to figure out how he became this way, this monster. But that's where it clicks to Jason. He's kind of showing the dots he was already connecting, that the big choice in his life is what made this Jason the Jason he is, that there is a Jason out there that did the opposite of he did, where he chose his career and his philosophy over his wife and child. And he says maybe it wasn't worth the trade. And he says sorry to Amanda because that Jason dated Amanda in that life. So I guess that wasn't making him happy enough. Now, this is already to be said, but the acting in the show has been incredible from Jennifer Connelly, obviously, but then also here, especially with Alice Braga and Joel Edgerton. And these scenes between the two are just excellent. Now, Jason's going to try a new approach, thinking of as a teacher and writing down what he wants to see. So they convince when they go in this new world that they've arrived at his world finally, but quickly you could tell it's off, as Amanda's saying. There is just a ghost town in this world, and he goes to his apartment, and we see this very sick Daniela. She's literally got 2-color eyes here, and the sun is dead upstairs, so really dark, real quick. And that the virus here, we learn, spreads through the bodily fluid, so he's not going to get sick airborne by just talking to her. He's basically told to just, give her this morphine. It will give her a peaceful death, and it's better she just dies at her home. But this was such an important and powerful scene because it's showing you the difference of our Jason to creator Jason, that he actually cares about the other versions of his loved ones in these other worlds, or even of himself, that he went out of his way, risked getting sick to give her this morphine, to give her a peaceful death and connect with her, where the other Jason would have just totally left her there. I love the writing here where she's like, I missed you so much, and he says, I missed you too. And I love the bond over that photo of them at Yellowstone. It's a common day they had. That was a perfect day, they say. And I'm sure that Yellowstone trip or that day will be where the show ends. If it ends on a happy note, it will be somewhere there. That is my prediction. But you can see now how they're talking about this. Blair was saying the box can break somebody down emotionally, and you're seeing that really with a scene like this, for him to just now go on with his life after seeing a version of his wife just die in front of him and knowing his son was just dead upstairs. But Amanda, like I said, is the MVP of this episode, is getting smarter now. She evaluates why they ended up there, and you see Jason carried his worst fear with him, losing his family to illness, and this makes sense because he lost his mother to illness. But I love the line Jason says, why would I seek out a world like that? And Amanda says, why do people marry versions of their controlling mothers or absent fathers? To have a shot at fixing things as an adult that hurt them as a child. Really great writing there. And she says, the subconscious marches to its own beat. There's a big theme right there so far in the show. And she says that world taught us a lot about how the box works. So again, Amanda really figuring it all out now. Now I want to stop there in that storyline and go over to the creator Jason before we merge everything. Now, creator Jason, he's like this character of Blair, I'm saying, where you can't trust anything they're saying. And with this other Leighton he's with, when Leighton asks, like, what's the craziest world you've seen? Him talking about a world that sounds exactly like he says the Mad Max story is a non-answer, is what it is. He's not telling him the craziest world he's ever seen. I also like they explained why he wouldn't just go from different world and rob a bank and then bring that money over, because the currency is serialized. And to make that logic make sense of how he has this money here in this world, I'm assuming he's emptied out our Jason's bank accounts to get the car for his son, knowing and banking on getting this investment from Leighton. We also learn when he's taking Leighton through the box that they can only go into worlds that they were born into. They can't see the full multiverse. And as you're watching this, you're seeing Leighton, and that type of Leighton we know in this world, like getting that drug addict fix with this now. He's so excited that he's starting to get away further and further from rational thought, and you see that Jason is prying on this. He knows he's going to get money this way. He's basically selling him this drug, literally a drug, for $1 million a piece. So you know this was all part of his plan. Now, let's merge the two stories together, because this is where it starts to get wild, because Jason and Amanda now really think they are in his world and they got it right this time. I mean, you see an operational McDonald's, that's always hope. But they toy with you here in a great way with the editing, because they're showing you the creator Jason is in the house with Daniela, making you think that our Jason is going to show up there, but it's totally a trick. It's also important to note that creator Jason is got to use his manipulating ways to make sure everything's okay. And he's apologizing to Daniela about not being honest and open with her enough, communicating what is really going on with him. So he gives her some of it. He tells her about millions he should be getting from Leighton. It's not the full story, but it's pieces. And what's crazy about this is while that's happening, we're seeing our Jason run into a Daniela who is horrified by him, calls the police. She's like, my ex-husband supposed to be in prison, and Charlie tackles him. Right away, you knew, okay, this part of his mind, what got him here, it's his fear of himself, right? What he's capable of, his guilt, a fear of hurting his family. So then Amanda, they're trying to think of someone they could trust, and she's like, let's go see my mom. Now, the big twist is in this specific world, Amanda is dead, okay? My theory is, how is she dead? It's just a coincidence that the world she's dead in is the world that Jason's in jail. I am sure of it, that he killed her. That's why he's in jail, because we know the wife and the son are alive, so it's got to be something with her. But this is a nice scene too. She gives her mom these meds, calms her down, because she feels like she's seeing a ghost basically. And she says to Jason that she told her mom that she's in a good place. I'm happy and I'll miss her. And I like when Jason admits to Amanda he was still having that fear of what he's capable of, and she just says, look at you, we're learning. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, it really clicked between them this episode, the two characters, and you felt like excitement, almost felt like a venture feel to it, and going through all this with them. I really liked that, and that really clicked this episode for me more than any episode. Now, the creator Jason arrives back at his home world, and he sees the blood from the scene that happened when the other Jason escaped with Amanda, and he learns from the security guard about what exactly happened, that Leighton also went with them, that other Leighton, you can't forget about that. And she asks him, what's it like in the box? And he says, hell. And remember, this is where he's going to get those drugs for Jason. I think he cleared out clearly his world of drugs. So if they try to go back, the other Jason, to get those drugs, there's going to be no more, which is going to be an issue. But this is crazy, because then Leighton asks this creator Jason what will happen with him after he sends Leighton off. He says, I have to seal up the box. But he's like, don't worry. Only in this world, the original world that they're in, psychopath, because he's going to totally try to block the other Jason from messing up what he's got going on with his family and his world. So that was an awesome cliffhanger. This was an awesome episode. This was the best episode by far to me. I thought all the episodes so far were good, but this was the first great episode. And to have it at episode 5, right at the midpoint of the season, is exciting, and I hope it keeps this momentum up. I really enjoyed this one. I think it just had so much great payoffs to it already, and I just felt more connected to all the characters more than any other episode in this episode. And I loved the mystery, I loved the big bees, and I loved everything going on with Blair there. It really felt like that, like horror-esque mystery sci-fi, which Apple's been awesome at. Let's be real here. So that really delivered. I'm giving this one a 9.6. Let me know what you thought of it down below. Make sure to check out my interview with Jennifer Connelly as well. I'll have that linked in the comments, and I'll see you next time.